Transmigrated as a disabled protagonist, how should I continue the script? Chapter 38, Everyone Returns Home. When Tezuka Osamu silently turned around after a brief pause, he saw Yakimaru walking farther and farther away. His throat was blocked. Unable to breathe. It felt suffocating. His mind briefly blanked out, gradually returning to normal, as if the cries for help and the desperate screams from the life organs inside his body were all illusions, pulled back to reality by the murky waters he had been drowning in. Ah, this is reality. He heard himself sounding extremely cowardly, speaking in a trembling, weakened voice. Maru. Turn around. Who are you looking for? Aren't you looking for Dororo? Didn't you say you liked me? Why can't you see me? In just 3 days, he dismantled the sheep organization, and in 9 days, he destroyed the GSS organization. The new member of the mafia, still youthful in appearance, had all the color drained from his face, and the light in his pupils extinguished. His soul was entangled in sin, with hundreds of lives lost, destroying that precious pure white humanity within him. Darkness, bloodstains. His hands weren't dirty, but his heart could never be clean. Suddenly, Tezuka Osamu understood why the Yakimaru from the parallel world did not recognize him. He laughed out loud. At his own foolish and ridiculous realization. Because of the killings committed by the Suribachi street villains and the mafia group, he arrogantly believed that as long as he didn't kill anyone, it wouldn't be a problem. And due to Yakimaru's changing attitude towards Mori-san and Nakahara-chuya, he grew complacent, thinking that no matter what form he took, he would still be recognized. At worst, he would find a way for Yakimaru to forgive him. Why could Chuya, who had killed people, be treated with tolerance, and he himself couldn't receive special treatment from the other person? What is the result? Always claiming to like him, yet unable to recognize him when he comes, he hadn't even discarded the other person, yet he himself had already been thrown aside like a broken, senseless puppet. What's wrong with this world? Not hesitating to prolong a painful life, striving to pursue something. It's all the same, none of it exists. The wind blew along the riverbank, and a clean and fresh white-shirt boy walked in the opposite direction of his steps, slowly making his way back. His half-dried hair, the new bandages stained with blood seeping from his skin, everything was still just the same as before. At the Port Mafia headquarters, amidst the busyness, Mori Ogai looked toward the young man in black approaching alone. He set down his pen, smiling at Tezuka Osamu as his mentor. Welcome back. Both understood clearly in their hearts. The thick darkness devoured the faint trace of light in Tezuka Osamu, a chaotic, inherently evil youth, indifferent to killing, indifferent to saving, pursuing only what piqued his interest. Tezuka-kun, I forgot to tell you something, I actually haven't killed many people. But Yaki-kun is someone who believes in the law of karma. Where there is no direct act of killing, it doesn't mean it's not a killing crime. The law does not allow for this distinction. Incitement to murder is on the same level as the crime of murder itself, though the former is harder to get caught for than the latter. Tezuka Osamu said nothing, and Mori Ogai no longer pressured him to abandon that portion of his feelings. Do you need something from me, Tezuka-kun? Give me a new place, I don't want to go back to the clinic. What the other said made Mori Ogai raise an eyebrow, attempting to ask, how about staying at the Port Mafia? Tezuka Osamu calmly replied, that works. 20 minutes later. Mori Ogai learned that his clinic had been sealed, the medical equipment was damaged, and it would be impossible to return to normal business for a while. Mori Ogai lamented, once again, earning money had become top priority. When Tezuka-kun wants to be vicious, he's truly going to be vicious. He's the type who would rather vent everything than keep it bottled up inside. Sigh, back to eating instant noodles. Could the world ever find a leader more impoverished and disappointed than him? Yakimaru spent the day searching outside and returned to the clinic at dusk. What used to be an easily opened door was now tightly stuck. Yakimaru, with his considerable strength, tried multiple times and finally forced it open. As he entered, he almost slipped. An empty bottle was left on the floor in his path. The clinic was in disarray, with various bottles and jars scattered around, a sign of compulsive behavior. There were footprints on the medicine chest, and all the medical equipment had been rendered unusable, with power lines cut or critical components removed. This left Mori Ogai, who is part-timing as the leader of the port mafia, too lazy to even bother fixing it, deciding instead to embezzle funds and place an order for a batch of the latest medical equipment. Dororo. Yakimaru let out an uncertain sound, his eyes moving with a mechanical emptiness. There was no sight of a life flame filled with sin, nor a pure white life flame, which meant that the two still hadn't returned. Such a situation had occurred a few times before. The father and daughter were both busy and sometimes they stayed out overnight. For example, Dororo didn't come back last night, which was rare. It was Dororo's father who ate with him, using this method to keep him from worrying about the other's condition. Who knows how messy the clinic was, but Yakimaru anxiously swept his gaze over the lifeless shadows, walking towards the room where he resided, patiently waiting for Dororo to return and eat with him. At this moment, the quiet of late night had arrived. There were no longer any passers-by outside, and those seeking a doctor, upon seeing the windows sealed, turned back. Yakimaru was hungry. He was demanded by Dororo to eat cooked food, and in order not to be disliked by her, he began to revive his old eating habits from his previous life, trying to live as if he were a normal person. Thus, after unknowingly going through a period of this, Yakimaru found some noodles. He realized he didn't know where the warm water was, didn't know how to light a fire in the room, and had no other method except eating it raw. Without complaining about the issue, he skillfully chewed the noodles, using this as his way to settle dinner. Afterward, he groped for the cup to drink water and drank the remaining half-cup from the yesterday. A person living, a person in solitude, once again fiercely appeared. Dororo, when will you return? Yakimaru sat on the chair, his hand checking the bandages tied around his right thigh, making sure there were no external injuries. He hadn't changed the bandages in 2 days, always wanting to have Dororo change them for him. The reason was simple. Being accepted by the one you like feels like happiness. Even if Dororo thinks I don't know, always curiously poking at sensitive places, I can only pretend not to feel it, waiting until I regain my sense of touch to tell her that she can't do that. The slender 14-year-old boy, on one hand, looked forward to the future, and on the other, savored the bittersweet joy of solitude. The darkness became a little less unbearable. However, even by dawn, Yakimaru had not seen anyone return. He pushed the door open and stepped outside, continuing his day-to-day search, showing no interest in the impure life flames that once intrigued him. He only wanted to find Dororo. And so, he returned to the complex, layered streets of Suribachi, descending deeper into the area. Yakimaru's eyes could see the life flames of every living being, a type of life flame equivalent to the soul, allowing him to distinguish who had a corrupt heart and was an evildoer, and who had never taken a life and was a good person. Through his experience surviving in chaotic times, he learned one thing: never trust those who have killed others, for they have already broken the fundamental boundary of life. At the corner of the clinic, Tezuka Osamu leaned against the wall, standing in the shadow without uttering a word. After a long while, he simply commented on his own behavior with a single word, boring, and then left. Once. Twice. Could it be that he was about to give this person a third chance? Suribachi Street, Nakahara Chuya was grumbling as he heard that Yakimaru was here, then immediately set off to find that person. He was frustrated to find Yakimaru alone on Suribachi Street and asked, "Does I shouldn't be busy?" Yakimaru's grayish-brown pupils focused on him, showing faint surprise, and he opened his mouth to ask this familiar person. "Dororo. You must be talking about Dazai, right? I don't have his phone number." Nakahara Chuya awkwardly realized he had no way to contact Tezuka Osamu. The other party only kept a one-way communication with him, and after everything was done, he'd find himself discarded, his value squeezed dry. With a kind heart, he didn't want Yakimaru to keep searching aimlessly. Scratching his head, he said, "Come with me, I'll go ask the Port Mafia if he's there." Arriving at the entrance of the Port Mafia headquarters, Nakahara Chuya pulled Yakimaru along. The two teenagers, in contrast to the serious group of mafia members, seemed like a completely different style. He nervously inquired with one of the suited members at the door. "Excuse me, is Disastrous Osamu inside?" "He's not here." Following orders, the Port Mafia member answered, sending the two of them away. HarumachiMusic lifted his head to look at the 5 buildings of the Port Mafia. The reflective glass obscured the figures inside, making it impossible for him to know if Disastrous Osamu was up there looking down. "Maybe he's just busy. You should wait a few more days." After a fruitless search, HarumachiMusic offered this reassurance to Yakimaru, though he didn't believe Disastrous Osamu could escape. That bastard had threatened him just a few days earlier not to lure Yakimaru away. Yakimaru's face remained expressionless, his brow furrowing slightly, revealing a hint of human-like emotion. Could Dororo be hiding in the bandit's lair? He began to consider rushing in. HarumachiMusic saw through his intentions and hurriedly intervened, pulling him away to a safer distance. "Don't provoke the Port Mafia, even if you are his friend, they will still treat you as an enemy." "But how can I see her?" Yakimaru's face was full of understanding yet thoughtful. "I'll keep an eye out for you. As soon as I see him, I'll drag him over to meet you," HarumachiMusic replied decisively. That afternoon, HarumachiMusic kept his promise, capturing a wildly struggling Disastrous Osamu, ignoring his squirming and loud protests. "Shorty, what are you trying to do?" and forcibly escorted him over. Seeing that they were approaching the entrance to the clinic, Disastrous Osamu gave up resisting and said, "Chiya, let go, I'm going to meet him." HarumachiMusic, uninterested in meddling, responded, "Hurry up and go, he's dying to see you." Letting go of the collar, HarumachiMusic felt like he had done a good deed for the day, and happily left. However, he didn't witness what happened next. Yakimaru leaned against the door, his expression vacant, but suddenly fixed his gaze in Disastrous Osamu's direction. His face turned icy, and the atmosphere immediately filled with an indescribable sense of pressure and suffocating tension. A life flame burned in the heart, in his eyes, the gray flame tainted with a crimson glow. Did evil, he had killed. Disastrous Osamu, in front of HarumachiMusic, could still maintain a relaxed demeanor, breathing so lightly it was almost undetectable. Thinking that the little shorty hadn't gone far, he fidgeted, moving back and forth. "Yakimaru." HarumachiMusic turned his head to glance at the two who had made peace, a smirk forming at the corner of his mouth. Dazai still kept his promise, not abandoning Yakimaru, or else he would intervene. Finally, Disastrous Osamu stopped 3 meters away from Yakimaru, his neck pressed against the sharp blade of the katana. He seemed like someone offering his neck for execution. "Do you want to kill me?" Disastrous Osamu, unsurprised by the outcome, responded with words welcoming death. "This person is getting too close." Yakimaru didn't waver in his killing intent, his eyes constantly searching for Dororo's life flame, feeling repulsed by the flame of evil so near to him. Especially since this person had come with the color-changing demon god's human host. At first, Yakimaru had not clearly seen the other's life flame, mistaking him for Dororo. This person was about the same height as Dororo, but had committed heinous acts and had killed many people. Yet, he didn't want to raise his hand against someone who might not be too different from Dororo. The world is incapable of treating people gently, and what a person can do is protect the fundamental boundaries of conscience. Yakimaru rejected this dangerous figure from approaching him. "Get lost." Disastrous Osamu observed him. Yakimaru stood guard at the clinic's door, as if protecting his home. The truly sad thing was that there was no one inside the clinic behind him. Who was Yakimaru protecting? A great surge of anger swept through him. Disastrous Osamu clenched his fists, tearing open the outer layer of trust, revealing how unbearable the blow within was. Ozaki Koyo told him to cherish this trust, and he did, only to be met with Yakimaru's unfamiliar attitude. Does he not resemble the Dororo in Yakimaru's heart even a little? A sentence spun in his mind, one that made him want to kill the moment he spoke it. "What do you take me for?" Disastrous Osamu was not a kind, innocent person. Yakimaru couldn't see him clearly, so why did he still want to like him? Disastrous Osamu pushed away the katana, disregarding the sharp edge, and coldly said, "Today, I absolutely must enter the clinic behind you. You can try killing me if you want. You can't enter. This is Dororo's home. You need Dororo and Dororo's father's permission to enter." Yakimaru, having been pushed to his limit by this person, unleashed a killing intent like that of a wild beast. Just as Yakimaru was about to strike Disastrous Osamu, in that split second, a sharp, nerve-tingling cat's meow echoed from the rooftop. Disastrous Osamu's body stiffened, and his gaze shifted toward the clinic's eaves. A calico cat leaped down from the roof, flicking its long tail lazily as if the terrifying sound just now hadn't come from it. Soon after, a few stray cats that followed the cat boss emerged from behind it. Those cats didn't dare approach Yakimaru and Disastrous Osamu below, squatting in a line as if they were watching a human spectacle. He felt strangely looked down upon by the cats. Disastrous Osamu immediately pierced through the extreme self-destructive emotions, stopped in his tracks, and looked once more at Yakimaru, whose appearance he loved like an illusion, losing the desire to mutter or speak. "You can just slowly wait for a lifetime." Yakimaru warily watched this life flame, not approaching, seemingly giving up on entering. In his spiritual world, he sees the other person decisively and smoothly walking away. Gone. Yakimaru adjusted his arm back to the elbow joint. After standing for a while, he squatted down. After Nakahara Chuya exhausted all methods to express to him the intention of bringing Dororo here, Yakimaru finally managed to understand, waiting at the door from morning until afternoon, simply wanting Dororo to see him first. His right leg became somewhat difficult to support, likely due to muscle and nerve fatigue. It didn't matter, his stamina was stronger than the average person's. If he continued to wait, and if food ran low, he could go outside and catch fish. If water was insufficient, he could easily find a river to quench his thirst. The most basic level of survival wasn't difficult for him. The calico cat jumped down from the eaves, its tail raised high. Its deep, bright eyes, under the sunlight with no shadows, contracted into vertical slits as it lifted its head to observe the two-legged animal known as human. Sigh, can this kid not even recognize his own friends? Natsume Soseki's most feared situation had occurred, that boy had been led toward darkness by Mori Ogai. In a certain sense, Yakimaru was too pure. So pure that his world couldn't tolerate even a trace of impurity. If it wasn't black, it was white, if it wasn't good, it was bad. This outlook protected him and allowed him to survive, yet it also made it impossible for those tainted by darkness to approach him. Natsume Soseki turned into a calico cat, circling halfway around him, pondering the solution. On the other hand, stray cats, seeing his actions, enthusiastically ran over, surrounding Yakimaru. Yakimaru, trapped in a waiting predicament, noticed one pure white little life after another, and a serene, gentle expression appeared on his face, as if he were in a paradisiacal place beyond the future, completely disconnected from any human conflicts. Yakimaru's world is very small, safe yet narrow, containing only Jukai and Dororo. At the same time, his world was very large. Large to the point that he knows the Transmigration department, understanding many worlds. After transmigrating, in order to fulfill his role-playing mission, from birth he had used every effort in honing himself. Dororo likes small animals, right? Yakimaru gently stroked the small animals surrounding him, his heart that had been closed now opened for the two most important people. That person just now was so fierce, could he really not be afraid that I might cut him down? Subconsciously, Yakimaru felt certain it was not a young girl. No young girl in chaotic times would face a man holding a weapon head-on, ignoring the sword in his hand and still wanting to enter the room. Dororo. Where are you? Why can't I see you? Days passed, and Yakimaru found very little food. There weren't many fish in the river, and they weren't large either. Being at an age where he could eat an entire horse, he needed more. To save time outdoors, he would usually eat something simple and return, especially at night when he couldn't see any passers-by. He would quietly stay by the clinic's entrance, watching the crowd. During his search, Yakimaru once again encountered the pure white soul of a kind person. He tried to express his plea for help. Oda Sakunosuke truly couldn't read the inner thoughts from the indifferent expression on his face. After hesitating for a moment, he still thought of a way to communicate with the boy. He remembered that recently, he always saw this boy fishing in the river for food or drinking the river water. The water pollution in Yokohama was somewhat serious, and doing that would upset his stomach. Do you have any belongings? I can help you find an acquaintance. I have a book. Under Oda's friendliness and patience, Yakimaru nervously took out the book from his chest. Oda Sakunosuke picked up the copy of The Complete Suicide, flipped through it, and determined that it was an item left behind for the black-haired boy beside him because, on the first page, there was a phone number that could be called if found. Oda Sakunosuke dialed the number. Hello, a boy has gone missing here, and he has your contact information. May I ask if you... Before he could finish speaking, a cold voice responded. Don't know. Beep beep. The call was abruptly cut off. Oda Sakunosuke. On Yakimaru, who was now a bit dirty, Oda Sakunosuke, feeling some pangs of conscience, organized his thoughts and dialed the phone again. Sorry, I misspoke earlier. There's a young man by the river who is about to die, may I ask? The phone emitted a continuous silence. After a moment, a voice that didn't sound very old on the other end said, Sir, don't meddle in other people's affairs. He not only has a strong life force but also exceptional survival skills. It's not your place, as a stranger, to worry about him. Oda Sakunosuke didn't want to listen anymore and said seriously but with exaggeration, You know him. The other side didn't want to respond. Oda Sakunosuke had no choice but to say, he seems to be looking for someone called Dororo. A bang sound rang out. It seemed like he heard the phone being violently knocked to the ground, causing his eyelid to twitch. Fortunately, the other person's phone was of good quality, and despite the interruption, the call was still connected. Oda Sakunosuke breathed a sigh of relief. As long as the call was still ongoing, it was fine. Immediately after, he heard the other person coldly say, The phone accidentally made intimate contact with the wall, making you wait for a long time, sir. The following sentence was, This person is already dead, asking further is only for burial. The call was cut off. Chapter 38 End.